Hey everybody, it's Jamie, and welcome to Geeked Out Basketball's Dev Diary number 17, where today we're going to be talking about 10 things that you should know about Geeked Out Basketball. And as usual, thanks so much for joining us for this Dev Diary series because here at Geeked Out Basketball, we are building the world's best deep tactical basketball simulation game. It's Football Manager for basketball because hardcore basketball sim gamers like all of you, you need your game too. And so without further ado, let's jump right in. And this is our Wednesday Dev Diary this week. This is going to be a little bit different than the first 16 that I've done for you because those have been very focused on how the game's coming along and tactical components of the game development. I'm shifting gears for this one for a couple of reasons. Number one, a lot of the work that I'm doing right now is the systems architecture and getting the alpha ready to go live. So I'll be honest, I really don't have significant tangible feature updates to show you. Like for example, today I literally spent almost all day debugging an issue with tournament mode, not properly registering stats at the end of the game. Which again, once I get this whole systems upgrade perfectly synced, like franchise mode was working, tournament mode was not. And so, when I get the system fully built the way it needs to be, it's like all of those should be running just with slightly different, dependencies on the back end based on the game mode. That being said, I don't want to bore you with technical details, but the point is like, it's been highly technical the last few days and not really feature driven, but I'm going to get back to doing the features soon. But for this one, I thought it would also be good maybe just to kind of step back and give you all a little bit of context on Geeked Out Basketball, what I think makes this game special, and just some questions that you all might have or things you've been wondering. So let's jump in. Again, I've got a list of 10 things here for you. This is by no means a comprehensive list of 10 things. This is just 10 things I think will be good for you to know, especially those of you who are excited to play the alpha in a few weeks. So first of all, some of you may know this if you've been, searching around our YouTube channel, but we launched a mobile version of Geeked Out Basketball 5 years ago. And when I say we, I mean I built this. I hired a development team, but it was really my thing. And it'll give you it was maybe like 5% of what I want now, but I've kind of got it right here.
Okay, we got Ronnie missed the inside.
But basically, I've got this Dev Diary series. If you go to the Geeked Out Basketball YouTube channel, you'll see one of the playlists is Geeked Out Basketball Season 2. And Season 2, full season. Basically, what I did was I picked a team. I think I chose Bentley Truman. And I simmed through an entire season. So 14 games. And then I also did the end of the season postseason tournament, and this game was something else. I mean, I loved this game, and I know that there's a segment of people out there who are as nerdy about sports simulation games as I am, because there were other people who really enjoyed this as well too. And I had this on the App Store on iOS and Android for about a year, maybe a little bit over a year. And a lot of people downloaded it, played it, etc. But I did an entire Dev Diary series where I walked through 14 games, just did my stream of consciousness while I was coaching. And as you can see here, this was a text-based simulation game, which, again, I loved it. And you can I'll unmute this for a little bit.
All right.
But here, this is how it went.
So fouls were okay. I don't think Trent and Kermit have the only 2 fouls. They got those pretty early. After those first 2 fouls, it's been a crisp game. No fouls called since then. None for Morristown, 2 for us. One thing about no fouls for Morristown is if they're trailing.
So you could see, like, it was just a text scroll, and we had colors synced and everything else, and it was a fun game to play, and you could call plays to certain players. You could change, an inside or an outside or an attack offense call. Over here we had defense calls. You could do man, zone, or box and one. We only have man and zone for this version right now. But obviously you can kind of see how this was the impetus. This was sort of like the little acorn that was the mobile version that we launched 5 years ago that's going to turn into the elm tree that we're building right now, with the animation and the much more ability to control and fine tune all of these tactical components and everything else. So if you get a little chance, maybe if you want to have a little fun, just go ahead and check out some of those videos on our YouTube channel. And then also I wanted to clear up, this is not the game we're launching now on desktop, but it's still kind of fun to go back and look at those. So that's item number one. So item number two, and this one is fun as well. Geeked-Out Basketball is partly inspired by an existing text-based sports sim. So there is this sports simulation website that called dolphinsim.com right here. And I played the football, basketball, and baseball sims of this for over 10 years. And it's funny. It's kind of like, you know how they say like George Lucas got, part of his inspiration for Star Wars by watching like old Westerns and weekly serials and everything. And I am by no means comparing myself to George Lucas or comparing Geeked Out Basketball to Star Wars. But what I am saying is like when you're creating something, you can get inspiration from things that really move you and really excite you. And this experience excited me and moved me, and it was basically my number one hobby for 10 years of my life. And what this was, and it still exists, and I haven't played it for a number of years. I kind of lost interest because, I think they kind of stopped maintaining the code and keeping it like really synced. But I've actually heard they're doing some interesting things with it. So if you ever want to check out dolphinsim.com, go for it. But it really was just a text-based sports simulation league. And what was cool was, you would play games and you would just put in your orders and then it would sim the entire game based on your order. You had no control during the thing, but I would get these scrolls. I would get these and I would just scroll through these and I would read these play by play as if I were watching the game live. And then I would picture movements in my head. And this was sort of like part of the nugget of the inspiration of what I wanted to bring to all of you with Geeked Out Basketball, because I loved the strategic components of this. I loved building game plans. I loved setting lineup strategies, but it was also I really wanted some animation. I wanted some visual magic. And so I felt like that was something that I could bring to the table with the sports sim game. But then also too, I wanted the ability to call plays in real time versus kind of watch the computer simulation go based on settings that I set. Because I'll never forget it. There was this one time in particular, it was the pro football sim. And we had a really competitive league for pro football. It was 32 teams. It was all human run. We were all playing against each other. And it was a playoff game. And I had never won a Super Bowl or a championship or whatever. I would rattle off a lot of like 10, 12 win seasons, but I could never win the title. And I think one year I was in like our equivalent of the AFC or NFC championship game. And I was down by like 5 points with like 30 seconds to go. And I had the ball on the 9-yard line, on my opponent's 9. And it was like 4th down. And the simulation for some reason called a fake field goal instead of running a play. And I remember at that moment just wanting to throw my laptop through the window. And so that was another thing too, is like there's so much goodness and so much fun with something like this. Then also the social component was really great. Like we had 32 active owners and we were all like publishing press releases and talking smack and everything else. I always felt like this was the foundation of such a fun game, but I felt like we could bring a bit more to it with in-game control, with animation. I want an even more robust social engine around this when we get multiplayer live. And get even like beat reporters and that kind of stuff going with all of this. So, I don't know, but I just thought that was a fun little fact. I played these Dolphin Sim leagues for years. I won't bore you with the details. You can even go in here and look at the archives and you can kind of see like I'm in the winning records for coaches and like in that kind of stuff as well too. So just a fun little tidbit. But yeah, we're kind of like, this is a nugget of kind of what Geeked Out Basketball is going to hopefully grow into. Okay, next. And I want to be really clear about this. Geeked Out Basketball from a game dev standpoint has no AI slop. Now, First of all, don't think I missed the irony that these images that I'm showing you are obviously AI. Part of the reason for, or the big reason for that is like, obviously right now my resources are focused on building the game or focused on development. Marketing for me is a bare bones thing right now. And really all I'm trying to do for marketing is start to put word out and find the very early adopters of people who are really into a game like this, people like all of you. So yes, I'm using AI to develop images and everything else. But if you've listened to some of my dev diaries, you've probably heard me reference cursor and codecs and everything. One thing to note is, I don't know if any of you have ever built your own thing using AI before, but this is not AI slop. And working with AI, if you're going to build something good, you can't just tell it like, hey, build me X, Y, and Z, and then it spits out X, Y, and Z. A lot of work goes into this, and you need to really, if you're going to build something really robust and really unique with AI tools, essentially the way I'm using them is they are like my junior developers. Like I have the vision, I'm telling them build these features, build these systems, etc. But I am not relying on them just to like pop out slop or to be a magic bullet or anything else. Even the imagery in this game, all of the player images that you see were handcrafted by an artist who I hired to do the imagery. That being said, I think down the road, as we start getting into more teams and everything else, I could see AI starting to play a role in image generation for players and everything. But it can't feel like slop if we do go that route. I'm still kind of thinking through what's the right way to do that. And then again, if all of you, when we put in the modding feature, maybe you're going to want to have the ability to upload your own images as well too. So we're going to think through that component. But one thing I can tell you and promise you is that the game development, the code, the features build, none of this is AI slop. Like every line of code that's written for this game is written by me, a human. And the ultimate goal is this thing needs to feel like a real human, organic basketball coaching experience. And so that's my promise to you. If there's never going to be AI driving this thing, and then B, if there are AI components to this, it's always going to be in service of a very human, realistic, and honest basketball game, and never anything that's going to feel like shallow AI slop for sure. All right, next. Geeked Out Basketball has 3 game modes. You guys have probably seen this reference, but just to kind of show you here, we've got scrimmages, tournaments, and franchise mode. Franchise mode is going to be the crown jewel, but just a real clean way to think about it. A scrimmage is you just play one game. It's one and done. We only track game stats for players. A tournament can be a little bit more robust. You can actually play a little tournament. Right now we have 8 teams, so you would pick one team. And then what it will do is it'll just generate a bracket. And again, terribly designed bracket right now. We're going to up the design game on all of this, but then you're just playing a 3-round tournament, and it's going to keep track of tournament level stats. It's going to have a tournament MVP, everything else at the end. Even if you lose your first round game, you can sim the rest of the tournament and see how it all nets out. And you can set your game plans and build your playbooks, and they're all going to persist throughout the tournament. And then the other mode, franchise, again, is our crown jewel. I'm going to get into that a bit more later. But franchise is going to be where we track game stats, season stats, and career stats for players and coaches. And that's going to have all the bells and whistles when it comes to like training and scouting and recruiting and everything else. So more on that later. But the other thing I wanted to touch on real quick is we're building a single player version now, but multiplayer is going to be coming up next. But we want to get a bunch of user feedback on the core game experience first, pivot and adjust things as needed to make sure when we go into multiplayer, which is going to be a heavy lift, but it's going to be a very important heavy lift, that we know we're ultimately building the game that you all want. So the way that I see this in my mind is hopefully I'm building the core of a game that you all want, but then I'm kind of baking the center of the cake. But I'm going to work with all of you then to put more layers on the cake and the frosting and the features and everything else as well. Is kind of how I envision this. And then ultimately, I'm personally really excited about the multiplayer component of this. Like right now, I would love to see it where we get to maybe like a 128 team high school league. a 64 team college league and a 32 team pro league, and they're all kind of like laddering off each other. The high school players are graduating into college, the college players are getting drafted into the pros, and we're all kind of playing within that type of ecosystem from a multiplayer perspective. In addition to, you all could have your own single player experiences going on as well too, and kind of playing your own single player franchise mode and everything. So yeah, that's where we stand with that. Okay, these next three, I'm just going to kind of run them together and then we'll go there. But first of all, scouting and game planning is really going to be the game within the game. So the games themselves are going to be a lot of fun to play, but you're really going to get rewarded for scouting and game planning. So the more you know your players and the more you know your opponent's players and tendencies, the better you're going to perform during gameplay. Let me go through these next two slides, and then I'm going to jump to the next screen. One philosophy we're leaning into is, and I would love to hear your perspective on this when you start playing it, or even if you have thoughts from watching these Dev Diary videos, but we're really leaning into this idea of too much information is better than not enough information. Part of that, or the main reason for that, is because if you all are like me, these hardcore sports simulation gamers, I think you would rather have too much information than not enough. And it's funny because I've got a Grok thread that I've been working on, and I've kind of coached into being sort of like a world-class game design resource for me, just to kind of help me bounce ideas off and everything else, and I'll show stuff. And Grok is constantly yelling at me when I'm showing it screen grabs, telling me I'm putting too much information in here. Again, I'll pull that back if need be, but I tell you what, I think the more information, the better. And to me, I think the quantity of the information in there, I don't even think we have enough in there yet. I think we need more. But I think one of the big codes that I need to crack once we get rolling with this is it needs to be laid out and designed and presented in a more intuitive manner for all of you. So one of the big things that we're working on right now is we've got this fully robust simulation engine built on the back end. The simulation is great. Now we're turning it into a game, and that means adding on game design. That means adding in a UI that's intuitive. That means adding in animation. And then one thing that animation has brought to the table is tighter geography-based rules. So like if there's a defender in between you and the basket, that needs to be communicated properly via the animation and then calculated properly on the back end as well too. And so that's like one of the big things that we're working on right now. So I think you guys have seen in the Dev Diaries, a lot of times the animations are good. I think they're strong, but there's still some obvious gaps in things. And that's the type of stuff that we're working on right now, in addition to all these other features. So again, it's scouting and game planning, the game within the game. We believe that too much information is better than not enough. And then the other thing, and I'm talking about this, but we really lean into this idea of ABC, always be coaching. And I think that's one of the things that, kind of going back to my example from the Dell Football League earlier, I think there's a lot of great sports simulation games out there, and I love them. I love playing them. But I always want more control during gameplay. I think it's fun to set my coaching orders before a game, but I want to be able to call plays. Like when I'm watching NFL games, like I love the chess match that's going on between coaches, like the offensive coordinator calling plays and trying to get into a rhythm, and then the defensive coordinator calling run blitzes, or bracketing zone on one side and man on the other to try to outmaneuver. And the same thing can happen in basketball. And I think if you've seen like me playing our prototype here, you can start to get into a rhythm of calling certain plays and keeping your opponent off balance, but also knowing to, lean into the hot hand if your small forward's hot and everything else. And there can be a real art and a science to play calling and always be coaching. And so let's jump in and I'll kind of show you guys what I mean. Like this is a franchise mode command center. I think I'm playing as Morristown here. And I've played a couple games. But kind of what I talked about before, the game within the game, scouting and game planning. So in franchise mode, you're always going to be able to look at a scouting report. You kind of see the team that I'm playing next. Their offense is really strong. Their rebounding is kind of in the middle. You can kind of look at how their offense and defense execution is. These guys are actually executing really well. And then you can also come down here and see what plays are they calling. And at what success rate, what's their overall usage. Right now we have common nomenclature of play calls. I'm still working on the play call system, what's going to be the best way to implement this into the game. And I'm really excited to get all your feedback on it as you start playing the game as well too. But my point here is that we want to give you more information than less. So like this is just one example. And then the other thing you can do, knowing you're playing Little York, is get in there and study their team, right? And kind of look at, okay, so they're having, well, first of all, are they having a good season? They're 1-1, just like us. So actually, it would kind of be a pivotal game, the two 1-1 teams playing each other. And they're getting outscored pretty significantly. But I would start looking into, okay, who are they leaning into offensively right now? Who's scoring the most points? If we do a quick sort, okay, this guy, Derek Smith, 26 points. He's up here. Okay, so he's a 5'10", 177 pounds. Decent offensive ability, really good outside defender, really good point guard, obviously. Look at those passing and ball handling scores. Great agility and super smart, So that's one good thing to study. And then who's next? It's this guy, Emery Landrenau. What's his story? This is a big dude, 6'8", 244. And look at it, he's an 8 scoring, 9 inside defense. He's a good passer too, so they might try him on the fast breaks, and he's a strong rebounder. So the whole point is kind of come in here and really start to study the team, and then also really start to figure out what are they doing from a personnel standpoint, and who are they leaning into, and then that can start to inform your game planning. And then you can look at your team as well too. Like we saw our opponent's team measures. Now let's look at ours. We've got a team tab right here. And you can kind of see our rebounding from a team perspective is significantly less than theirs. Now keep in mind, that's just team attitude when it comes to rebounding. Still at the end of the day, player attributes in this game are going to trump almost everything else. Team attributes affect things, but players actually have to execute the moments that are out there. But you can see like our discipline is lacking a little bit. We're kind of lacking a little fight. We do have good chemistry. And then I am systems coaching a lot. So you can kind of see I've got our offense, defense, fast break, and press trap systems all kind of like humming pretty well. And then you can kind of come down here and study your playbooks as well, right? So these are the different plays. Then over here we've got your success rate with each play. And then we've also got who's the player that scored the most points. This is cumulatively for the season. We're going to put more stat. Like I think I'm going to put a little you can click here and see all 12 of your players and how many points each have scored. And then I think we're going to put a button right here to show you usage percentage of each as well too, so you know which you're calling the most, and give you a sort feature. But you can come down here and study your plays for all of this as well. And we're going to do the same for defense. Actually, we don't have the stats here for defense, but we've got your team's command, momentum, and cloaking for each of your defensive plays as well too. So again, and this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to information. You're also going to have all your recruits on here. You can start to study your recruits. So for example, if I'm Morristown, I'm going to look at my roster, and let's look at the seniors. So I've got a lot of seniors. I've got my point guard's a senior, my center, and my power forward's a senior. One of my main backup big guys is also a senior. So I'm losing 3 key big guys and my point guard at the end of this year. And then, I've got a good backup center and a pretty good backup point guard, but I'm going to need to build some depth, right? So I would study this further, but just for the sake of this discussion, let's say I'm going to focus on a point guard and a big man. Okay, so I'm going to look and all right, we can kind of see the top recruit is this guy, Stetson Pittman, who is already, and he's already at a 5 scoring, 5 inside defense, 3 rebounding, 3 strength. You're going to get a sense. Those are actually pretty good attributes for a recruit. Think of recruits starting off with anywhere from 20 to 40% of what their ending value could be. And then what else do I have here? The top 3 guys are projecting to be centers. And then, there's really not a point guard till down here. And this guy's a good passer and a ball handler, doesn't have much offensive ability, but you can train that up, right? But this might tell me this recruiting class is pretty deep in centers, pretty light in point guard. So maybe I'm going to really commit to start recruiting this guy. And recruiting is going to start around week 7. And then that's when that can kind of turn on and everything. But again, this is all stuff that you're not even playing a game when you're doing this, right? This is all information that you can just be studying and taking in. You can just kind of sit here. When I played Dolphin Sim back in the day, I would sit there and study that stuff for hours. It's like, it was what I love to do. But there's that. And then I'm just going to run a quick training here. I'm just going to auto train it, not worry about it too much. I would put more thought into the training and get into it more when we get there. But I want to get into play now because this whole idea of more information is better than less information. Sorry, I can't help myself. I got to put a good lineup in here. But let's just play the game. So also that whole more information is better than less information also applies to the game screen, right? So you got 3 tabs of player stats up here. This one's going to show you points, rebounds, assists, and fouls. This is all during the game. Steals, blocks, and turnovers on the next tab. And then we have a defensive tab. How many defensive attempts have they had and what's their win rate been? So you can start to get a sense for who's performing well defensively for you and your team. And then down here for team stats, we got all the standard team stats that are going to be updating in real time. So field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, free throw percentage, rebounds, both offensive and defensive, assists, steals, blocks, turnovers, fast break points, points in the paint, and fouls. And then there's tab 2. This is going to be the breakdown of all the plays. So, offense, and then they running inside, attack, outside, and then motion, this is the set play percentage, motion percentage, and total percentage. So again, I'm going to work on the presentation of this a little bit. You can kind of see that they have run 2 set plays for the inside with a 50% success rate. Defensively, they've run zone both times with a 50% success rate, now 3 with a 33% success rate, where we have run man once and zone twice and 0% success rate on both. So you can start to get a feel. And again, remember we got the color coding up here for the players. Green means essentially fully energized. Then it goes to yellow, then to orange, and then to red. And that's the color of the copy. Then we also have these little tool tips. If you hover over, you can see the player's exact energy percentage as well as where he stands on the momentum and where his emotion for the game is. And momentum and emotion are going to fluctuate too. Obviously, energy fluctuates the more they play. But momentum and emotion are going to fluctuate a lot throughout the game as well. So you can kind of keep track on that. And then there's the S3 tab for teams, which is just all the team measures. So you kind of see where they're shooting, they're rebounding, their different efficiencies for offense, defense, fast break, press traps, their aggression, their fight, momentum. This is actually discipline, not aggression, and team chemistry. And these will fluctuate some during the game, but not as much as the player stats, except for momentum. Team momentum will fluctuate up and down quite a bit during the game. And then you've got your play call center down here where you can call plays in real time. You just remember this is a turn-based system, so you got to call your play before the turn starts. Otherwise, it's going to wait until the next turn. But you can also force defensive calls, like I forced a man call there. Again, I'm just kind of like vomiting all this information. You don't need to take it all in, but this is just kind of designed to show you this whole philosophy of more information is better than less information, and then always be coaching. Like, who's your hot hand? Where are you going to choose to focus your attention during gameplay? Like, you can't focus on all of this. There's too much information here, but whatever you want to focus on, it's there, and you can watch it. So like, for example, what I've noticed I tend to watch is my player energy levels, who's getting into foul trouble, is there a hot hand on either side of the ball? Because I'll either ride my hot hand if he's my guy or call a timeout to thwart that momentum if it's their guy. And then I tend to look at like rebounds a lot. Am I getting killed on rebounds? If so, I'll get better rebounders into the game. Or are we missing a lot of outside shots? Then I'll maybe look to get better outside shooters into the game. There's a lot of stuff to take in. And there's even like, once we hit our first dead ball, I'll call a timeout. And I'll even show you the whole more information is better than less information during the timeouts as well. See if we can score here. Oh, look at that. A kick out 3. Nice hit, Kevin Nelson. Yep. So even during the box score, if you remember, this is going to be a wealth of information for all of you as well, too. There's the obvious player stats. There's the obvious team stats down here. Even like the success with fast breaks, traps, and presses. motion versus zone defense, or man versus zone defense, motion versus set play offense. But we're even getting a deeper layer of situational stats here. So here, this kind of shows you we've run one trap defensively with him in there, and there's a 100% success rate. You can kind of see he doesn't have any stats. Mose Hawkins was involved in one fast break with a 100% success rate. I wonder who threw the outlet pass. I want to show the outlet pass scoring. There it is. He threw the outlet pass that scored at a 50. You'll start to get a sense for what that means, but the outlet pass scoring systems on a scale of 0 to 100. Again, tons of data in here, tons of information, like even like defensive success rates, screen success rates, everything else. So again, more information is better than less information. We definitely believe in that, and we want you to always be coaching. This is more than just a game where you put in your coaching orders and then watch things play out. Just a little side note, we're also building a U.S. football sim game, not soccer football, but actual U.S. football. And that game engine is also built. It's not nearly as polished as basketball is because I've been focused on basketball. But when we get there, it's going to probably be a couple years down the road. If we get success with the basketball game, there's going to be a football game right around the corner. And I could envision a similar high school to college to pro tiering system and structure for that as well too. And that's going to be a really fun one. We'll kind of get down the road of that, but just kind of a little teaser that we've got that going. And then last but not least, we want your input. So again, I hate to put dates out there because I'm a pretty limited size team here with a pretty big vision, but I think we're going to be able to have the alpha launched as early as January 28th, no later than the first week of February, depending on how the getting site live goes. But those of you who want to be some of our first alpha testers, we would love to have you. We've had a number of you register already, so thank you so much. I appreciate that. But if you are interested, just come here to gobalpha.com. Ignore the ugly design of this site as well too. At some point, I'm going to bring in a really good designer for everything. But just enter your name and your email here and then claim your spot. And then when the alpha is ready to go, we're going to send a note out with the code. And there's going to be one-time use codes that you can link to your email, and then you'll have access to the alpha as long as the alpha is live. So there'll be more details to come on that. But for anybody who's watching this Dev Diary series right now, you're exactly the type of person who we want to test this game and give us feedback. So we would love to have you. Again, gobalpha.com. There's also a link to our Discord in the description below. And so if you would like to join our Discord and ever hit me directly with any questions or thoughts or ideas, I'd love to hear them. I get on Discord. I try to get on there at least once a day, but a lot of my days are spent developing. So sometimes I just get lost developing. But if you do ask me a question on Discord, it won't go too long before I'll get back to you. So again, I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. Thank you for letting me just sort of like spew out this stream of consciousness, 10 things to know. It was just something I wanted to give you all a video today. And I just didn't feel like, I didn't have anything like too sexy to share from a feature standpoint. So I'm like, let's just kind of tell a little bit of the story of where this idea came from. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we will see you all again on Sunday for the next Dev Diary video. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Bye-bye.